Yeah, hi, it's Robert Funston again. We've had two previous videos to this. We've run through methods of communication, a little bit on selling, temperaments, that type of thing. This third videotape really is, it's all very well to say, to change what you do and all that. It's easy to say, but it's more difficult to do. So this video will go through how you actually go about doing that and what you've got to do to change the way that you think, because life is habitual. It's normally habits that people create, and probably the greatest thing of all is that as you travel through life to the age of 20, you're really programmed by parents, by teachers, by friends, by people that you mightn't like, but you're all programmed from the age of 21, 22 upwards. You really have got to program yourself. First 20 years is how you've been made. The next 30 years is how you make yourself, and it really is dependence. The success is dependent upon how you make yourself and what you do to change yourself. The problem that I see with most people, especially in real estate or just in life in general, is that they've because of the experiences, they've got a collective, like a warehouse of experiences. So every now and then, if something reminds them, they'll shine the torch on probably an aspect they don't like, and they'll tend to live there. So what happens, that becomes the pathways through their mind. So it's like if you've got, for example, a very wet day, you'll find the water will run down a paddock a particular way. Next time it rains, it'll do the same thing until it gets deeper and deeper. Then you've got this great big crevice or half a river because it hasn't changed direction. Most people don't change direction. They still deal with the same emotion over and over and over again. And you've really got to know how to change the direction of the emotion, how to reprogram yourself. At the end of the day, whatever's happened in life to you, there's nothing you can do about it. And the funny thing is, if you look at the life that we live here in Australia, if you've got a net worth of $45,000, you're in the top 10% of people throughout the world. You can go and buy a T-bone steak and do what you want. You can go fishing, you can go do what you want. So life in reality is good for all of us, a lot of us basically, most of us. But if you compare yourself to someone who's off jetting in the place, well, then it's perhaps not so good. But in reality, we're all doing pretty well in this country. So it really depends how you look at things. I had a lady come in, and I was talking to her the other day, and she was just talking about how bad this was, and I don't want to go into the detail there, but I said, if you look at, that's your slant on life, but you actually look at what you've got, the age you are, you're 85, most people are lucky to be alive at that age, you're healthy, everything's good, you live in a nice place. So what is there to be negative about apart from negativity itself? So it depends on your perspective. And because people's perspective is incorrect in relation to reality, they live their life in a miserable way when they should actually be happy, right? And it comes back to the warehouse. If you always shine the torch on the misfortune, the negatives, the bad things, that is where you live. But you can't stay there without affecting your health and really ruining your life at the end of the day. So you've got to learn how to reprogram to stop yourself thinking about those thoughts in particular, negative thoughts. Once probably the first step is to realise that is what you're doing. If nobody tells you, you don't realise it, you continue just to go down the same old path. You know, so it's a question of your own perspective. Einstein said, it was famous, he said that people walk around in a state of disempowerment because of the boundary conditions of your thinking. And that's really what that is. It's the boundary conditions of your thinking. Your thinking is limited in relation to reality, if that makes sense. In relation to what you compare it to. Because human nature being what it is, if you put a group of kids together and watch them fight and carry on, adults are not a whole lot different to that. People by nature are competitive. They'll play sport. They will cheat in sport and take drugs, do what they've got to do for the sake of winning. Did they win? No, the drugs won, but it's important for them to win because people are competitive by nature. Right, so with all of this, it is how you change. You've got to really redesign yourself to a degree. When you get into this type of gear, you've got to change the way that you think. Otherwise, if you've got no confidence and you think, well, I'll try this, but it probably won't work, well, it probably won't work. If you're confident about it working and you focus on it because you are confident, the chances are it will work for you. So it's a question of modifying the way that you think. All of these things are very simple. It is cause and effect. You do this, you get that. Get up in the morning, go out and plough the field, plant the crop grows. You don't do that, the crop doesn't grow. This is a crop, it's no different. If you don't do these things, well then nothing happens. If you do them, it'll happen. But the point is with it, you'll think of a million reasons, oh, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work, but it does work. If you do it, it works. It's no different. If you look at the statistics with trading shares, with working in real estate, with your own business, it all ends up about 85% will fail in the first 2 or 3 years. because they don't learn what to do. In their own mind, yes, they're doing this, but I'll do this, I'll do it my way, but their way perhaps doesn't work. If you've got a system where people do it this way and that works, why wouldn't it work for people that do it that way? It does, but they don't do it correctly. It is that simple. And if you realise that, whatever you do will work, because you'll do what's necessary to get it to work. If you want to believe and say, well, I knew it wouldn't work, if you want to believe, a lot of people are not happy in some ways with success. It's like you've got a war inside yourself. One says, just do this, and no, don't do that, don't do that. Yes, do this, no, don't do that. So you've got to overcome all of that. You've got to be very positive in what you do, decisive, write yourself a little list of what you've got to do, and you just do it. It's that simple. It's that simple. Regardless of whatever is in life that you do, you start off with a plan and you stick to the plan. If it needs modifying along the way, well then you modify it. But life is not that complicated. Most people end up with 1 or 2, maybe 3 decisions. You do this or you do that. You do this or you do that. Now why people don't make a decision is because neither of what they decide will make them feel how they want to be about doing it. Although it's the best thing to do, and although they've got to do something, they will do nothing until they're forced to do something which is probably a lot worse. So it's the inability to make decisions based on the facts that you've got that in a lot of cases stop people from moving ahead and put them in a position that they're far worse off down the track. But with all of this, what we're talking about here, largely it comes down to habit. You do it once, you do it twice, you do it 3 times, you continue to do it, and before you know where you are, it is automatic. And you've changed the program through your mind. You've created a different path to go down. That's the simple way to do it. For example, if you're frightened of heights, or say for example you're frightened of spiders, you might look at the spider and say, well, I'm frightened of the thing, it's got hairy legs, this is that. But in reality, the spider's not going to come and attack you. It'll only attack you if it's frightened of you. Right? It's like snakes to a degree. A lot of the venom is used for diseases, to cure people from diseases. So there's a spider that's beneficial to you, that might have hairy legs, but it doesn't chase you, and you're fearful of spiders. So it depends how you look at the deal, you know. The way you look at the spider is perhaps unreal, because it's not going to attack you. It's got venom to protect itself and perhaps to kill prey. What's it going to do to you? Nothing. But you've got a fear of it for whatever reason. So you've got to look at it from a realistic point of view to say, well, why am I fearful of that? When really you shouldn't be at all. You should be grateful of things there because it might cure you one day. So it's a question of how you look at things, a question of perspective. But a lot of that's all to do with how you think, your perception of things. It's what triggers you in relation to fear. But you can change all that. If you look at it in a different way, the reason you're fearful of it is you look at it in a certain way. If you change the way, you're no longer fearful. I mean, what interests me, the lady that came in here was worried about dying. Well, from the time that you're born, you've been going to die. It's as simple as that. It's just a process. So if you're going to get around being worried about dying, the life that you have got, you've just ruined because you're worried about dying, when it's going to happen whether you like it or not. So you might enjoy life. That's another perspective, but it's an incorrect perspective. In this country, you've got people that might be 95 years old and suddenly they die. In our culture here, we mourn and we're upset, and I mean, the individuals themselves are probably that sick of being alive. They're probably pumped full of some sort of medication to keep them alive. They die and we're upset, but it really shouldn't be the case. But that's the perspective that we have. They should really be celebrated. They've lived as long as they have and had such a good, fortunate life. They had children, maybe jobs all their life. It doesn't get any better than that, but it's not how we look at it. So how we look at a lot of things is really very unrealistic, but it's true. It is true. And this is no different to that. Looking at the way people look at careers and success, it's there for anyone. And the thing is, in today's society, it is so easy. You jump on the net, you get the best person, if it's in engineering, whatever, and you follow the best person. You get the best estate agency, you follow them. They're doing this, we'll do that. Now, you might be 5% worse, but you might be 40% further ahead than where you were before. It is not that hard nowadays compared to what it was. The information is available, and the expertise and the brilliant people that are around that you can just imitate. It is not difficult. All this type of thing that I'm talking about now, even whether it's shares or whatever, there is so much information, so much good knowledge and intelligent people around that can help you do these things. It is easy. If you went back 40 years, it was very difficult. You couldn't get information. Look at an encyclopedia, who knew much? Well, now you've got a world full of information. You go, it's all there for you. How easy is that compared to what it was? Okay, so that really just about wraps it up. This is the 3rd video we've done. It really wraps it up. But the next video, what I'll do is I'll take all that we've spoken about, which really is self-improvement and communication, which really is what selling is. Selling is no different to that. If people like you, you're really, in a way, selling yourself. People, it's funny, what cracks me up, to be honest with you, is that people don't tend to like anyone in sales for some reason, probably because I think they can gain something from it. But if you look, any business, all it does is sell goods or services. That's all that it does. Right? Regardless, if you work as maybe an accountant or a clerk or whatever it is that you do, or you work in the factory, it's a bit like Formula One as a comparison. You've got the whether it's McLaren or whatever, you've got the manufacturer, you've got the engineers, you've got the designers, you've got the promoters, you've got the pit crew, you've got the mechanics. At the end of the day, who's responsible whether they win or lose the race? Whether all that millions and millions of dollars has been worthwhile or not. They put a fellow called a racing car driver into the car and they say, now you do your best and bring home the flag for us. Right? The sales industry is no different to that, just a different perspective, and people are not aware of this. Say you've got your company, you've got your directors, you've got your shareholders, you've got all your employees, whether it's engineers, designers, whatever it is, right? At the end of the day, they say to their sales team, now we've done this, we've spent $6 billion in all of this, we've got all the fashions right, we're ready to go, now you go and sell their stuff. Right, then off they go and sell it. So at the end of the day, how important is the sales team compared to what people think in reality? In real estate, for example, you're selling somebody's house, could be $1.5 today, $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. How many occupations do you sell a product of that value? There's not many, right? So how important is that to the individual? You might get them 100,000, 80,000 more for their house than someone else. So it's an industry that really is underrated because of people's perspective of it. They think, well, we're doing this is important, but selling is not important. You look at Specsavers, for example. What they do, it's interesting, it's a transfer of emotion. What they do is they'll have somebody up killing a seagull over a volleyball net in this big pile of feathers, right? And that's funny, it is funny, I think it's funny. I like all the ads. And they wander onto the beach with a big seal in their arm and they say, where's its parents, you know? Should have gone to Specsavers, can't see that it's a seal, you know? So all this, what they do, another one also is Crown Casino, where you'll see them, this unusually good looking, sort of good looking but in an unusual way, girl run through a big rack of clothes, up this staircase and topple into a big pond of water. What's that got to do with Crown Casino? Nothing. But it's a transfer of emotion from what you feel about that in relation to the company. So you think of Crown Casino and you think of all the warm feelings of this ad. Same as Specsavers. Same, you jump out of a plane, you fly through the air with this ski on, you land in the middle of a desert, there's a girl with a car that's spoiled in a bikini, tips a tin of solo over herself. What's that got to do with soft drink? Not a thing. But it sticks in your mind. That's what marketing does. So it really is a transfer of emotion. From start to finish, when you're dealing with people, it is what you transfer in relation to emotion to them. So just as a lead on from what I was saying before, the next video we'll be doing will be really just sales based mainly. This is, as I said before, an overview of communication, of changing your mindset. And none of it, it's like I said before with the friend that does the shares, it's knowing the one thing. And what I mentioned before, which is a good analogy, is you've got the room full of pieces of a car, and there's a car there, boiler rights, but until it's assembled properly and it's put together properly and the thing is tuned, it is not worth anything. It's as simple as that. Now information is the same as that. You've got to process it yourself and then put it into action, right? The information of the pieces of the car, the rest is what you do. So if you don't do it correctly or you don't bother to do it, the information's no use and the pieces of the car are no use in a similar way. Thanks very much for listening again today. If that's been any use to you, that's very good. We're doing the same thing next Friday. There'll be a new video coming out, but it's more sales based, which is actually good fun and it's very important. So we'll see you there. Any questions you've got, make sure to write that in the bottom here and I'll answer them for you. There's no issue with that. And you'll enjoy the whole process. Thanks very much for listening.